There are some truly mysterious archaeological finds from around the world that have captured the imagination of many people. However, there is arguably no discovery that has left experts baffled quite like the Rongorongo script. This is the so-called lost writing system of Easter Island, and it remains undeciphered to this day. The very existence of this script implies that the native Rapa Nui people had developed a sophisticated civilization on the island. But what exactly did they write about? And can we ever hope to understand their writing? Or has it been lost forever? Welcome back, everyone, to our channel, where today we will be taking a deep dive into the bizarre story of the Rongorongo script. Do not forget to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos about ancient discoveries, lost civilizations, and everything in between. Easter Island is an incredibly remote volcanic island located in the southeastern Pacific Ocean. It belongs to Chile and lies roughly 1,500 miles off the coast of Lima, Peru. The island itself is small, spanning only 62.8 square miles, and it is home to the famous Moai statues. These were created by the Rapa Nui people, and over 700 of these incredible monolithic figures have been found across the island. However, it was another find that really captured the attention of experts and the general public alike. In 1978, a piece of wood was excavated from a site known as Orongo. This particular artifact was a bat carved with strange symbols, and researchers knew they had something special on their hands. Since then, almost 400 pieces of similar artifacts have been discovered. They consist of wooden tablets, stone slabs, and even petroglyphs. All of them share one thing in common, though. They are covered in a variety of strange symbols that remain unexplained. What makes this particularly interesting is that these artifacts were found all across Easter Island. This includes caves, village sites, and ceremonial sites. Perhaps most strangely of all, they were found buried underground. Some were placed inside human burials, suggesting that they may have had some sort of religious significance. As you might have guessed, much of what we know about the Rapa Nui people comes from these artifacts because, unfortunately, no contemporary written records exist. That said, scholars believe that the Rapa Nui people arrived on the island around the year 1200. This was during the 13th century, and they sailed from what is now western South America. Their society would flourish over the next few centuries, but they would eventually be wiped out by European diseases. The great thing about the Rongorongo script is that it tells us a lot about the way of life of the native islanders. We know that they lived in large villages with well-planned neighborhoods. In fact, some researchers suggest that their settlements rivaled those of Mesoamerican societies such as the Maya. Unfortunately, as mentioned earlier, no written accounts or records were kept by outside explorers, making it difficult to verify these claims. The Rapa Nui people also had a sophisticated social structure, which is evident from the way the Moai statues were built. They were all built to look the same, indicating that they were made to represent ancestors. This may suggest that they worshipped their deceased relatives. If this is true, it would certainly make them one of the earliest known cultures to develop religious beliefs like this. Now, let's get back to the Rongorongo script. As researchers began excavating more artifacts, they realized that they were dealing with a genuine writing system. This means that the Rapa Nui people were literate and that they had developed a way to communicate using written characters. Most of the artifacts are made from the wood of the awa tree, which grows only on Easter Island. Many of the tablets were used as a kind of record, much like a scorecard. This is because they have a series of grooves running along them, allowing symbols to be scratched into the wood. Other tablets were carved using the relief method. This involves carving raised characters above the surface of the tablet. Some of the most famous examples include the Kiaka tablet and the Ahu Tongariki tablet. Both of these were found at ceremonial sites and contain multiple characters. The Kiaka tablet in particular has attracted a lot of attention because of the sheer number of symbols. There are 209 individual characters and they span just under 10 inches. Unfortunately, the tablet is heavily weathered, which has made it difficult to study. Still, experts are confident that these are all individual characters that could have made up the Rongorongo script. In total, there are roughly 850 distinct characters. These have been divided into 3 different categories. The first category consists of 182 petroglyphic signs. These are the actual characters used in the writing system. Next, there are 362 pictographic signs, which are believed to have been used phonetically. Finally, there are 208 other signs that have yet to be explained. It should also be noted that each character may represent either a word or a sound. For this reason, it is sometimes difficult to decipher the meaning of the script. In the past, researchers have attempted to use the pictograms as a key to unlock the mystery of the Rongorongo script. Unfortunately, none of these attempts have been successful. Researchers have even attempted to compare the Rongorongo script to other writing systems. This is in the hopes of finding similarities, but nothing conclusive has ever been found. Perhaps the most intriguing part of the Rongorongo script is its full-length examples. These are pieces of wood that feature 2 parallel lines of characters running down them. They serve as kind of bilingual dictionary. While this does not tell us what the script actually says, it does imply that the Rapa Nui people had developed a complex language. The question is, why did they stop writing? The answer is unknown, but it may have something to do with the decline of the Rapa Nui civilization. When Europeans arrived in the late 18th century, they brought with them devastating diseases that the natives had no resistance to. Within a few decades, the population had been decimated and their way of life was destroyed. Sadly, the Rapa Nui people were effectively made extinct. This is largely seen as the downfall of the Rongorongo script. After all, there was no one to use it. Many researchers are frustrated that this mysterious script may never be deciphered. After all, the Rapa Nui people are long gone, and without someone to translate the script, it seems unlikely that we will ever figure it out. There are plenty of linguists who disagree, claiming that it can be done. They just need more artifacts to work with. What this means is that new discoveries could pave the way for major breakthroughs in our understanding of the Rongorongo script. For example, one team of researchers has suggested that the missing pieces of the puzzle can be found in oral traditions. This theory has yet to be tested, but if true, it would open up an exciting new avenue of research. Others have suggested that the script may have been influenced by Polynesian languages. This theory is appealing because it provides a potential link to the Rapa Nui people. Polynesians are known to have settled on Easter Island, so it would make sense that they would have brought their language with them. Whatever the case, the truth is that the Rongorongo script remains a complete mystery. Its secrets have been lost to time, and it may never be deciphered. While this is disappointing, it is important to remember just how amazing this discovery was in the first place. Before the 1970s, it was thought that the Rapa Nui people had developed a society based solely on magic and religion. The Rongorongo script disproved this theory and revealed that the natives were literate and highly intelligent. If you were one of the researchers trying to crack the Rongorongo script, what approach would you take? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos about archaeology and ancient discoveries. It is one of the most extraordinary places on Earth, a vast complex of tunnels and chambers buried deep beneath the surface of the Mediterranean island of Malta. It was constructed over 7,000 years ago and served as a place of worship for an ancient civilization whose influence can still be seen today in things like the Great Pyramid of Giza. But it's not just the sheer scale of this subterranean labyrinth that's so remarkable. It's also the strange acoustics within it. There are many underground chambers here, and each one has its own unique sound, kind of like the inside of a guitar. Some are tuned to different notes depending on where you stand. And in some others, the pitch rises dramatically until you reach the center, then drops again as you move further out. In fact, there's one chamber known as the Oracle's Chamber, which seems to have been designed specifically to resonate with the human soul. But how did they do it? Why were these chambers made to have such peculiar sound properties? What secret knowledge did the builders of Hippogym possess that allowed them to create such acoustic wonders? And what can we learn from their legacy today? Join me on this journey into the heart of one of the world's greatest mysteries. The Hippogym of Hal-Saflieni is a vast underground temple complex built around 3600 BC on the Mediterranean island of Malta, making it older than Stonehenge by at least 1,500 years and older than the Egyptian pyramids by nearly 2,000 years. It consists of a series of tunnels and chambers carved into the soft limestone bedrock, all connected together in a complex network beneath the surface. What makes the Hippogym so unique, though, are its strange acoustic properties. In some areas, the pitch of your voice will rise as you walk further into the chamber until you reach a certain point, and then it will drop again as you continue on. Other chambers seem to amplify certain notes while muting others. And still others have a strange echoing effect that makes it sound like there are multiple voices present when there's only one speaker. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the Hippogym's acoustics is the oracle's chamber, a large circular room with a dome-shaped ceiling that is said to have been used for rituals and ceremonies. According to legend, when a priestess would enter the chamber and speak, her voice would seem to come from all directions at once, as if the gods themselves were answering her questions. This effect still persists today, and anyone who steps foot into the oracle's chamber can experience it for themselves. So, how did the builders of the Hippogym manage to create such a feat of acoustic engineering almost 8,000 years ago without any modern tools or technology? Well, it all has to do with the shape and size of the chambers. The ancients were well aware that sound waves travel differently through different mediums and at different speeds depending on the frequency. By carefully controlling the shape and dimensions of each chamber, they were able to create unique acoustic environments that could amplify, distort, or even cancel out certain sounds. In the oracle's chamber, for example, the dome-shaped ceiling is thought to have been designed to reflect sound waves back down onto the floor, where they would then be amplified before being projected outwards towards the audience. This created an immersive experience for those gathered in the chamber, as if the gods themselves were speaking directly to them. Another important factor to consider is the material from which the chambers were constructed. Limestone is a porous material that allows sound waves to pass through it more easily than denser materials such as concrete or steel. This would have allowed the ancients to create chambers with very specific acoustic properties, as they would have been able to fine-tune the amount of reverberation and echo within each space simply by changing the thickness of the walls. It wasn't just luck that allowed the builders of the Hippogym to create such amazing acoustic environments. It was the result of careful planning and an intimate knowledge of how sound waves interact with their surroundings. They understood that by manipulating the variables such as the shape, size, and material of each chamber, they could create unique auditory experiences that were pleasing or even awe-inspiring to those who entered them. But why did they do it? Why go to all the trouble of creating these strange acoustic environments in the first place? Well, that's where things get really interesting, because it seems that the Hippogym was more than just a place of worship. It was a place where the veil between the physical and spiritual realms was at its thinnest. The builders of the Hippogym believed that the island of Malta itself was sacred, a place where the gods had chosen to walk among mortals. They saw the island's natural features such as caves, cliffs, and rock formations as having special powers and sought to harness these energies in their rituals and ceremonies. The Hippogym was therefore not just a temple, but a nexus of spiritual power, a place where the mundane world could be transformed into something truly transcendent. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence for this interpretation is the oracle's chamber, with its remarkable acoustic properties. The ancients believed that the sound produced in this chamber was otherworldly in nature, a direct manifestation of the gods themselves. For them, it wasn't just a cool trick of acoustics, it was a window into the divine. And this wasn't the only place in Malta where sound played a central role in religious practice. At other temples and shrines across the island, the builders of the Hippogym would have experienced echoes, reverberations, and other auditory phenomena that reinforce their belief in the island's sacredness. But why did they believe that sound could unlock the secrets of the universe? Well, it all has to do with the nature of reality itself. The ancients understood that the physical world we see around us is merely a manifestation of deeper, more fundamental truths. They knew that everything is composed of vibrations, and that these vibrations can be manipulated to create different states of matter, energy, and consciousness. Sound, after all, is nothing more than vibrations traveling through a medium such as air, water, or solid matter. By manipulating these vibrations, the ancients believed they could tap into the very fabric of reality and access hidden knowledge or even higher states of consciousness. This is why they built the chambers of the hypogam with such precision, why they chose certain shapes, and sizes and thicknesses of walls, all in an effort to control the vibrations within these spaces. They weren't just creating cool acoustic environments. They were creating portals to other realms of existence. But why does any of this matter to us today? What can we learn from the legacy of the hypogam and its builders? Well, first and foremost, we can learn about the ingenuity and creativity of our ancestors. The builders of the hypogam were master architects and engineers who possessed an intimate knowledge of the laws of physics. They understood that sound waves travel differently through different mediums and at different speeds depending on the frequency. By carefully controlling these variables, they were able to create unique acoustic environments that could amplify, distort, or even cancel out certain sounds. But beyond their technical skills, we can also learn about the spiritual beliefs and practices of the ancients. The builders of the hypogam believed that the island of Malta itself was sacred, and that its natural features such as caves, cliffs, and rock formations had special powers. They sought to harness these energies in their rituals and ceremonies, believing that sound could unlock the secrets of the universe and allow them to access hidden knowledge or even higher states of consciousness. Finally, we can learn about the interconnectedness of all things. The ancients understood that everything in the universe is interconnected and that we are all part of a greater whole. They believed that by manipulating the vibrations around them, they could tap into the very fabric of reality and bring about profound changes in their own lives and the world around them. If we can remember this lesson today, we can begin to heal the divisions that separate us and reconnect with the natural world around us. So the next time you hear a strange sound or experience an inexplicable phenomenon, don't just dismiss it as a coincidence or an act of God. Ask yourself whether there might be a deeper meaning behind it and whether it could be a sign that the veil between the physical and spiritual realms is thinning. Because who knows, you might just be experiencing the world in a whole new way. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe so you never miss an upload. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Deep in the mountains of Laos lies a mysterious archaeological site that's been baffling scientists for decades. The plain of jars is covered with hundreds of huge stone jars that were likely used for an unknown ritual. But what exactly was this ritual, and who were the people behind it? It's me, and you're watching this channel. Join me today as we explore the many theories surrounding the creation and use of the plain of jars. It will be interesting to learn about the different theories regarding the origin of these jars. So stay tuned till the end to find out more. The Plain of Jars is an extraordinary archaeological site in Laos that contains hundreds of giant stone jars dating back to the Iron Age. This incredible discovery has attracted the attention of archaeologists and historians from all over the world who are eager to uncover the secrets of this ancient civilization. The site consists of roughly 2,000 jars ranging in size from 1 to 3 meters tall and weighing up to 60 tons each. These massive jars are made from sandstone and are thought to have been created using primitive tools such as hammers and chisels. However, despite their size and weight, each jar is remarkably uniform in size and shape, suggesting that they were made using a sophisticated understanding of geometry and engineering. But perhaps even more perplexing than the jars themselves are the many holes that riddle their surfaces. Some of these holes are small and shallow, while others are large and deep. There are also some jars which contain a smaller hole within the larger one. These holes have sparked numerous theories as to their purpose, leading some researchers to believe that the jars were used for burial rituals. This theory is supported by the fact that many of the jars were found to contain human remains as well as animal bones and pottery. However, there is no evidence of any sort of headstone or inscription that would indicate who these people were or why they were buried in such a strange way. Others believe that the jars were used as offerings to the gods. This theory is based on the idea that the holes were made to hold incense sticks or other objects used in religious ceremonies. This theory is also supported by the presence of other religious artifacts found at the site, such as statues of Hindu deities. But if this is the case, it's unclear which deity was being worshipped here or how the offerings were made. There is another fascinating theory that suggests the jars were actually used as musical instruments. This theory is based on the belief that when water was poured into the jars, they produced a range of different sounds depending on the amount of water present. These sounds could then be used to create music or to accompany religious ceremonies. While this theory seems far-fetched, it is supported by some of the holes found on the jars which appear to be too large to hold anything else. However, recent research has shed new light on the plane of jars and the true purpose of these enigmatic structures. Researchers believe that the site may have actually been used for storing rather than burying bodies. Their hypothesis is supported by the fact that many of the jars were discovered to have lids, suggesting that they were intended to be sealed once whatever was inside was placed inside them. Additionally, some of the holes found on the jars may have actually been used for carrying them, making it easier for them to be moved around. Another fascinating aspect of the plane of jars is the arrangement of the sites themselves. The jars are not randomly scattered across the landscape, but instead form part of a much larger network of settlements and burial grounds. In fact, the entire region is littered with megalithic structures such as standing stones and dolmens, indicating that it was once home to a large and complex society. This society is believed to have thrived between the 3rd century BC and the 3rd century AD, during which time they developed a unique culture that blended elements of Hinduism, Buddhism, and animism. However, despite their advanced understanding of mathematics and engineering, this civilization remains largely unknown to historians. No written records or artifacts have been found that can shed light on their customs or beliefs. As a result, the true identity of the people who created the plane of jars remains a mystery. While much of the plane of jars is located in Laos, there are similar sites scattered throughout Southeast Asia. For example, the nearby plain of Shangkuang contains over 500 jars, while the Shuwing site in southern China has yielded nearly 10,000 fragments of pottery. These discoveries suggest that the practice of creating megalithic jars was widespread throughout Southeast Asia during the Iron Age, though the exact purpose of these jars continues to elude researchers. One of the most important discoveries at the plane of jars was made in 2018 when archaeologists uncovered a human skull inside one of the jars. The skull had been decorated with a distinctive pattern of tattoos, suggesting that the individual had held an important status within their community. Analysis of the skull also revealed that the person had died a violent death, possibly as a result of warfare or ritual sacrifice. This discovery provided valuable insight into the culture and customs of the people who lived here centuries ago, showing that they had developed complex social hierarchies and were willing to engage in warfare or human sacrifice in order to maintain their power. Despite these findings, the true purpose of the plane of jars remains a mystery. Some researchers believe that they were used as burial grounds for important members of society, while others argue that they played a role in religious ceremonies or festivals. It is possible that the plane of jars had multiple uses and served both practical and symbolic purposes. The creation of the plane of jars is a testament to the ingenuity and hard work of the people who lived here centuries ago. It took a lot of effort and coordination to create these massive jars and transport them to their final resting place. They likely served an important role in the lives of those who lived here, whether they were used for burial rituals, religious ceremonies, or as part of everyday life. In addition to the practical uses of the plain of jars, they also served as a way to display the power and influence of the ruling elite. The massive size and intricate design of the jars were likely meant to impress and intimidate those who saw them, serving as a reminder of the strength and wealth of those who commissioned them. While the true purpose of the plain of jars may never be fully known, these mysterious structures continue to captivate researchers and visitors alike. They serve as a reminder of the rich history and cultural heritage of Southeast Asia and the importance of preserving these sites for future generations. Exploring the plain of jars has given us a glimpse into the lives of the people who lived here centuries ago. Through studying these massive jars, we can learn about their culture, customs, and beliefs and gain a better understanding of the world they inhabited. As we continue to explore and study the plain of jars, we can hope to uncover more secrets about this fascinating archaeological site and the people who created it. Who knows what other mysteries lie hidden in the plain of jars waiting to be discovered? With continued research and exploration, we may one day uncover the answers we seek and learn more about the fascinating history of this enigmatic site. What do you think about the plain of jars? What theories do you have regarding their origin? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something new. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos about forgotten civilizations. See you next time. In today's video, we will find out what happened to the mysterious people who built Teotihuacan, a massive ancient city in Mexico that was built long before the Aztecs. The Valley of Mexico was once home to one of the most influential civilizations in Mesoamerica, the Mexica. However, before they settled here, the valley had already been occupied by other cultures for many years. One of these societies were the builders of Teotihuacan, a sprawling metropolis whose origins are still a mystery. So let's go back in time and find out more about the enigmatic people who built this great city and what ultimately led to its demise. Teotihuacan, meaning place of the gods, or place where the gods are made, is situated just 30 miles northeast of modern-day Mexico City. This well-planned metropolis covers an area of over 19 square miles and contains impressive pyramids, large temples, palaces, and numerous residential areas. Teotihuacan is one of the largest ancient cities in Mesoamerica, with the Avenue of the Dead running right through the center. This wide thoroughfare is lined with monuments and stretches from the Pyramid of the Moon to the Pyramid of the Sun, which towers 66 feet high and is the third largest pyramid in the world. It was likely used for religious processions, military parades, and other public events. Archaeologists have discovered evidence that suggests that Teotihuacan was surrounded by defensive walls, measuring around 26 miles in length, making it one of the largest urban centers in the ancient world. The city's strategic location near the Valley of Mexico made it an ideal spot for trade and agriculture. Due to its elevated position, Teotihuacan was naturally protected from flooding and other natural disasters. During its heyday, the city boasted a population of over 100,000 people, making it one of the largest cities in the world at the time. The inhabitants of Teotihuacan were highly skilled craftsmen and merchants, and their goods were traded throughout Mesoamerica and beyond. They were also devout worshippers of multiple gods and goddesses, and their religion played an important role in their daily lives. Despite the city's impressive size and influence, very little is known about its origins and early history. The first inhabitants of the Valley of Mexico were the Cuitlatzinga tribe, who arrived around the year 1000 BCE. They were followed by the Nahuas, who migrated to the valley around the year 500 BCE. The Nahuas spoke a language known as Nahuatl, which is still spoken by several indigenous groups in Mexico today. They developed a complex society with a strong emphasis on agriculture, trade, and religion. But by the year 250 CE, the Noah civilization had mysteriously disappeared. Some historians believe that they were conquered by a neighboring tribe, while others believe that they simply assimilated into the broader Mesoamerican cultures. However, the truth of their disappearance remains a mystery. It was during this time period that the Toltec Empire rose to prominence in the Valley of Mexico. The Toltecs were a powerful and culturally rich civilization who ruled over much of Mesoamerica. They were responsible for building several impressive cities, including Tula, which served as the empire's capital. The Toltecs were known for their skilled craftsmanship, particularly in the areas of sculpture and metalwork. They also developed a unique writing system and made significant advancements in mathematics and astronomy. However, like the Noah before them, the Toltecs mysteriously vanished after being attacked by nomadic warriors from the north. According to legend, these invaders were led by a fierce warrior named Tecuhtli, who was known as the Left-Handed Lord. Tecuhtli and his army are said to have destroyed the city of Tula and enslaved or killed many of the Toltec nobles. Some historians believe that the Toltec Empire simply declined due to internal strife and environmental pressures. Others believe that the nomadic invaders from the north were responsible for their demise. Again, the truth of what happened to the Toltecs remains a mystery, but it was at this point that another civilization arose to prominence in the Valley of Mexico, the Mexica. Legend has it that the Mexica were wandering nomads who had been driven from their homeland by the Toltec Emperor Tecuhtli. They wandered the Valley of Mexico for several years, looking for a place to settle down and build a new city. According to their legend, they were told by their god Huitzilopochtli to settle in the exact spot where they saw an eagle devouring a snake while holding an offshoot in its beak. When they found this spot, they knew it was where they were meant to build their new city. And so Tenochtitlan was founded in 1325 CE on an island in Lake Texcoco. The Mexica quickly grew into a powerful and influential civilization. They built impressive cities, developed a complex social and political structure, and engaged in extensive trade with other Mesoamerican cultures. However, the Mexica were also known for their fierce warriors and their practice of human sacrifice. They waged many wars against neighboring tribes and often captured enemy soldiers to sacrifice to their gods. In 1521, the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés and his army conquered the Aztec Empire, ending the reign of the Mexica. Cortés and his men looted the city of Tenochtitlan, destroying many of its buildings and artifacts. The Spanish also introduced diseases such as smallpox and measles to the Americas, which devastated the native populations who had no immunity to them. Many of the surviving Mexicans were enslaved or forced to work in the newly established mines and plantations. Over the next few centuries, the Spanish colonial government suppressed much of the native culture and history. They banned the worship of native gods and discouraged the use of indigenous languages. However, some of the pre-Hispanic traditions and beliefs survived, often in secret. Today, the ruins of Teotihuacan are a popular tourist destination. Visitors from all over the world come to explore the ancient city and learn about its fascinating history. The site is also an important center for archaeological research, and new discoveries are being made there all the time. Despite the many mysteries that still surround the builders of Teotihuacan, it is clear that they were an advanced and sophisticated civilization. They developed impressive architectural and engineering skills, and their art and crafts were highly prized. Their religious beliefs were complex, and their economy was thriving. But for reasons unknown, the builders of Teotihuacan suddenly disappeared. One theory is that the city was abandoned after a devastating earthquake or volcanic eruption. Another theory is that the city was conquered by a neighboring tribe and its inhabitants either enslaved or killed. However, there is no solid evidence to support either of these theories. The truth of what happened to the builders of Teotihuacan remains one of the greatest mysteries of ancient Mexico. However, in recent years, researchers have uncovered evidence of a possible culprit behind the Toltecs' disappearance. Archaeologists discovered traces of a large fire in the central plaza of Tula, suggesting that the city may have been deliberately set ablaze before being abandoned. Other researchers have suggested that the Toltecs were victims of climate change. They pointed to a significant drop in rainfall around the year 1000 AD as evidence of this theory. A prolonged drought would have made it difficult for the Toltecs to grow crops and sustain their population, eventually forcing them to abandon their cities and flee to more hospitable regions. Evidence for this theory can be found in the geological record. A layer of volcanic ash dating back to the year 930 AD was found at various sites across the Valley of Mexico. This ash was likely the result of a massive eruption at the nearby volcano Popocatépetl. The eruption would have blocked the sun and caused temperatures to drop, leading to a failed growing season and widespread famine. But there is yet another theory regarding the fate of the Toltecs. Some researchers believe that the Toltecs were conquered by the Chichimeca, a loose confederation of nomadic tribes from the north. The Chichimeca were known for their skill in warfare and their ability to ride horses, which gave them a significant advantage over the Toltecs, who did not use horses. According to legend, the Chichimec leader, Topiltzin, marched on the Toltec capital of Tula and defeated the Toltec king, Chetzmiquizan. Topiltzin then took the Toltec women and children back to his own lands, while the male prisoners were put to death. There is some archaeological evidence to support this theory. For example, a mural in the nearby city of Cholula depicts a Toltec ruler wearing the distinctive headdress of the Chichimeca. However, there is no conclusive evidence that any one of these theories is true. The truth of what happened to the Toltecs remains a mystery. So, what do you think happened to the builders of Teotihuacan? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching. See you next time. You are looking at the most cursed book in the world. And if you think that's an exaggeration, then buckle up, because the things written in this book have brought nothing but misery to anyone who has laid eyes on it. Throughout human history, there have been plenty of books that could easily be labeled as cursed, from grimoires used in dark rituals to tales of haunted books bringing misfortune to their owners. This medieval manuscript is certainly one of them. Known more commonly as the Devil's Bible, the Codex Gigas was created sometime around the 13th century during the reign of King Otto II of Germany. The book is so large that it cannot be stored flat, and its sheer size alone is enough to intimidate even the most avid of readers. But it was the contents of the book that earned it its dark reputation. It is said that the entire book was written in a single night by a single monk named Alardus and his unlikely writing partner, the devil himself. According to legend, Alardus was a young and ambitious scribe who was hired to copy a number of important manuscripts for the monastery where he worked. In order to complete his work, he would often stay up all night, fueled only by wine and a desire to finish his work as quickly as possible. One night, after drinking more than he probably should have, Alardus decided to head over to the monastery's library. There, he found a number of ancient texts which he proceeded to bring back to his room in order to study them. Among these texts was an ancient grimoire, a book of magic and spells. Not knowing what he was getting himself into, Alardus began reading the book and was immediately transported to another place. In front of him stood the devil himself, who congratulated Alardus on his decision to read his book. In exchange for summoning the devil, Alardus requested that the devil help him finish all of the manuscripts he had been commissioned to copy. The devil agreed, and together they spent the night copying manuscripts, with the devil providing Alardus with superhuman abilities to assist him in his work. By the time the sun rose, Alardus had finished all of the manuscripts he had been hired to copy, as well as several others that he copied for himself. Overjoyed by his newfound skills, Alardus thanked the devil and sent him back to hell. Or so he thought. As soon as the devil left, Alardus realized that he had just made a huge mistake. He had traded his soul for the ability to copy books. Now he needed to find a way to get out of his contract with the devil before it was too late. He went back to the library to try to find the grimoire that he had used to summon the devil, but it was nowhere to be found. Then he remembered that the devil had taken something from him in exchange for his help. As Alardus looked down at his belt, he saw a small pouch hanging from it. He opened the pouch and found a small black book inside. Alardus knew that this was the grimoire, and with shaking hands he began to read it. As he did, he realized that the devil had tricked him. The book contained powerful curses that would bring misfortune to anyone who read it. The devil had taken Alardus's soul in exchange for his help, and now he would make sure that Alardus paid the price. Alardus was horrified, and he tried to do everything he could to break the curse. But it was too late. The devil had already won. This is where the book gets its name, the Devil's Bible. But it is not just the legend surrounding the book that makes it so cursed. The book itself contains some very disturbing images. One of the most disturbing is a drawing of a demon that appears on one of the pages. Some say that the demon is actually the devil himself, and that he is watching those who dare to read the book. Others say that the demon is Alardus, cursed to spend eternity as a monster for selling his soul to the devil. Either way, the image is incredibly disturbing, and it is one of the main reasons why people believe that the book is cursed. There are also a number of other images throughout the book that depict scenes of hell and damnation. These images are equally as disturbing, and they serve as a reminder of the fate that awaits those who have done wrong. Perhaps the most disturbing thing about the images, though, is that they were likely intended to scare people away from reading the book. If you don't want people to read your book, you make it as scary as possible. After all, the devil doesn't want people to know about his tricks and schemes. He doesn't want them to know how he operates. He doesn't want them to have access to the same powers that he has. So he puts curses on his books, puts demons and scary imagery in his books. But despite the warnings, people still can't help but read the book. They want to know what the devil has written down. They want to see how he operates. And maybe, just maybe, they want to see if the curse is real. But what makes the Codex Gigas truly terrifying is that it isn't just a book. It's a gateway to another world. Those who read the book are said to be transported to hell, where they will be tormented for all eternity. Of course, this is just a legend. Or is it? There have been reports of strange occurrences happening to those who have read the book, and many believe that the stories are true. One of the most famous stories is that of a young woman who was reading the book when she suddenly felt a cold hand on her shoulder. She turned around, but there was no one there. Another story is that of a man who was reading the book when he heard the voice of the devil whispering in his ear. Whatever the case, these stories are enough to scare anyone away from reading the book. And it seems to be working. The book is kept locked up tight in a vault at the Abbey of Santa Giustina in Padua, Italy. Only a few people have been allowed to read it, and none of them have come out unscathed. So, if you're anywhere near here, be careful. Don't let the devil trick you like he did Alardus. Don't let him take your soul in exchange for power and knowledge. Don't read this book. It may seem like a harmless way to pass the time, but it's anything but. The Devil's Bible is cursed, and those who read it pay the price. What do you think? Is the Codex Gigas really cursed? Let me know in the comments below, and if you want to learn more about the devil and his tricks, be sure to check out my other videos on the subject. Thank you for watching, and I hope you're not too scared to sleep tonight. The Codex Gigas, also known as the Devil's Bible, is a medieval manuscript that is said to be cursed. The book is incredibly large, measuring 36 by 20 inches, and contains over 300 pages. It is written in Latin and contains a variety of biblical texts, including the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the writings of the early Church Fathers. However, the book also contains a number of other texts that are not considered to be biblical, including the text of a medieval bestiary, a collection of stories about animals, and a number of prayers and incantations. It is believed that the book was created in the 13th century during the reign of King Otto II of Germany. According to legend, the book was written in a single night by a single monk named Alardus and his unlikely writing partner, the devil himself. The book is said to be cursed, and those who read it are said to be transported to hell, where they will be tormented for all eternity. If you're interested in learning more about the Codex Gigas or other cursed books, be sure to check out my other videos on the subject. I've covered a number of different cursed books in great detail, and I'm sure you'll find something that interests you. Just search for cursed books or check out my other videos. You're sure to find something that scares you. Thank you for watching, and I hope you sleep well tonight. Hi, it's me. Number 9. Yonaguni Monument. A massive underwater structure has been discovered near the Japanese island of Yonaguni. The Yonaguni Monument is a huge pile of rock that was first sighted in 1986 by a scuba instructor who said that it looked like a giant pyramid. Since then, many divers have come forward with stories of a vast stone city lying beneath the surface of the water. What could this mysterious monument be? Is it some kind of ancient sunken city or simply a natural rock formation? Let's take a look at what we know so far about this strange find. The Yonaguni Monument is located off the coast of Yonaguni Island, which is part of the Yaeyama Islands in Okinawa Prefecture. The whole archipelago consists of more than 170 small islands and islets, most of which are uninhabited. Yonaguni itself is only home to around 2,000 people. The islands are known for their beautiful beaches and crystal-clear waters. It's a popular destination for divers. It was in these waters that a scuba diving instructor named Kihachiro Aratake spotted something unusual while teaching a class. He saw an enormous stone formation that resembled a gigantic pyramid. At first, he thought it might be a mountain peak that had been eroded by the sea. But after further investigation, he realized that there were man-made structures all around it. Excited by his discovery, he informed other divers who came from all over Japan to see the site for themselves. Soon, stories began to spread of a sunken city beneath the waves. According to the divers, there are stairs carved into the rock that lead down into the murky depths. There are also what appear to be pillars, walls, and even a bridge. Some say they've even seen the shadow of a large building-like structure. To date, no one has been able to explore the entire site because it's simply too big. It's over 10 square miles in area and lies between 130 and 230 feet beneath the water. In 2002, the Japanese government sent out a research vessel called the Kaio to investigate the claims. Using sonar technology, they created a map of the ocean floor and discovered a massive rectangular shape that appeared to be totally man-made. Was this really a sunken city? The only way to find out was to send in manned submersibles to take a closer look. A team of experts entered the water and explored the site, taking samples of the rock formations. They found strange carvings on the rocks that seemed too regular to be natural. However, they also found traces of marine life on the rocks, which made them think that it must have been a natural formation after all. Fossils of sea creatures such as corals and shellfish were found, leading them to conclude that the site was nothing more than a coral reef. In 2014, a documentary was made about the Yonaguni Monument. The documentary crew returned to the site with more advanced technology and made high-resolution maps of the seabed. They also conducted side-scan sonar surveys and found new evidence that suggested that the site was artificial. The sonar images showed a series of parallel lines that could not have been caused by nature. They also found the remains of what appeared to be a paved road. Most intriguing was the discovery of what seemed to be a gigantic face embedded in the rock. The face had distinct features including eyes, a nose, and mouth, as well as what looked like a beard or perhaps a necklace. Could this really be the face of an ancient deity? The documentary crew also spoke to a local historian who claimed that the Yonaguni Monument had been mentioned in old texts dating back centuries. According to the documents, the monument was said to be the birthplace of the Ryukyu Kingdom, which ruled over much of southern Japan in the 1400s. Could this underwater structure really be a sunken city that lay beneath the waves? Or was it nothing more than a series of natural rock formations that had been distorted by the passage of time? To get to the bottom of this mystery, a group of Japanese researchers returned to the site in 2018. This time, they used even more sophisticated technology to scan the ocean floor. Using unmanned submarines equipped with cameras, they were able to get a close look at the Yonaguni Monument. What they found was shocking. The submarine footage showed a series of straight lines, perfect right angles and doorways that were definitely man-made. It looked like the ruins of an ancient city that had been lost to the sea. But there was still one thing that didn't make sense. If this really was a man-made structure, why was it covered in marine life? To explain this, the researchers came up with a new theory. They believed that the Yonaguni Monument was once a breakwater that had been built by the Ryukyu Kingdom. A breakwater is a structure that is built offshore to protect boats and ships from the force of waves and currents. If that's true, then it would explain why the breakwater was covered in coral. It would also explain why there are stairs leading down into the water. The divers may have actually been looking at the foundation of the breakwater, which had collapsed over time. But there was still one piece of the puzzle that didn't fit. The researchers studied old maps of the Ryukyu Kingdom and found no evidence of a breakwater. In fact, there was no evidence of any kind of harbor or coastline protection structure. The researchers were stumped. Was the Yonaguni Monument really a natural rock formation after all? To get to the bottom of this mystery once and for all, a new expedition was launched in 2021. This time, the team brought along a robot submarine that was equipped with laser scanning technology. Using lasers, the robot was able to create a detailed 3D map of the Yonaguni Monument. The results were astonishing. The 3D map showed that the Yonaguni Monument was much larger than previously thought. It was also much more detailed. The robot discovered a series of canals that ran throughout the structure, as well as what looked like houses and other buildings. It almost looked like a miniature city. But there was still one thing that the robot couldn't explain. All of the buildings and structures were made of rock and coral, but the walls and pillars were made of solid rock. How could this be possible? The answer, according to the researchers, is that the Yonaguni Monument was not built. It grew. The team believes that the monument is actually a coral reef that has grown in a very unusual way. Over the centuries, the coral has formed a structure that resembles a city. The team believes that the coral must have started growing on the breakwater, which was originally built by humans. The breakwater provided the perfect foundation for the coral to grow on, and eventually it became overgrown. The coral grew in such a unique way that it created structures that resemble buildings, walls, and even roads. The team believes that the Yonaguni Monument is a rare example of a coral reef that has grown around a human-made structure. This has never been seen before in such a large scale. The team is now working on a new theory to explain how the coral grew in such a strange way. They believe that there may have been a natural disaster such as a tsunami that caused the breakwater to collapse. The tsunami would have caused the coral to be deposited in its current location where it continued to grow. What do you think? Is the Yonaguni Monument a natural rock formation or the remains of a sunken city? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Mexico is known worldwide for its ancient ruins, pyramids, temples, palaces, and artifacts, many of which are on display in museums around the world. What's less well known are the 18 colossal stone heads that are scattered throughout the tropical jungles of the Isthmus of Tehuantepec. Carved between 900 BC and 400 BC, these giant stone heads are some of the oldest examples of Mesoamerican sculpture, and each one is dramatically unique, possessing features not seen anywhere else in the region. However, despite their striking appearance, we still don't know what they were made for. Hi, everyone. I am an independent scholar working on a book about the Olmec and other ancient Mesoamerican cultures. Today, we're going to talk about the 18 colossal heads that are scattered throughout the tropical jungles of the Isthmus of Tehuantepec. These giant stone heads are some of the oldest examples of Mesoamerican sculpture, and each one is dramatically unique, possessing features not seen anywhere else in the region. However, despite their striking appearance, we still don't know what they were made for. The first Olmec head was discovered in 1850 by a farmer named Alfonso de Ibarola, near the village of Tres Zapotes. The discovery of the second head a few years later sparked the imagination of locals who began calling them colossos, or giants. In total, 18 heads have been found, but only 12 remain today. One was destroyed during the Mexican Revolution, another is missing, and 4 are in museums outside of Mexico. The heads are thought to represent early rulers of the Olmec civilization who lived between 1200 BCE and 400 BCE. During this period, the Olmec dominated the Gulf Coast of Mexico from the modern state of Tabasco up to the border of the Maya lowlands. And it was during this time that the first cities in the Western Hemisphere began to emerge. While the Olmec did not leave behind any written records, archaeologists believe that the colossal heads served as a way of depicting and remembering their leaders, much like the Egyptian pharaohs. But unlike the Egyptians, who carved their faces in stone on temple walls and tombs, the Olmec preferred to hide theirs in the jungle. The largest head weighs over 70 tons and stands more than 3 meters tall, while the smallest is barely 2 meters. Despite their imposing size, they are strikingly beautiful, possessing exaggerated features and expressions. Their eyes stare vacantly into the distance, gazing across time and speaking to us in silence. We can see that each head has different facial features, headdresses, and even hairstyles. Some wear heavy necklaces and others seem to be adorned with makeup. Their lips protrude and their ears flare out, and every wrinkle, blemish, and scar is meticulously carved, making each face completely unique. The expression on each head varies from stern and severe to gentle and kind, even smiling in some cases. It appears as if each head is meant to represent not just a ruler, but a particular aspect of rulership itself. Some scholars have pointed out that certain heads may have been deliberately placed overlooking ceremonial centers or important buildings, such as the Juego de Pelota court at La Cobata or the Pyramid of the Magician at Tres Zapotes. However, despite the best efforts of archaeologists and anthropologists, no two heads appear to be alike. If they were intended to represent individual rulers, then why weren't they more consistent? And if they were meant to represent aspects of rulership, then why were the features so radically different from one another? To make matters worse, many of the heads were found decapitated and without context. For example, head 4 was found in a quarry with many pieces of debris nearby, suggesting that it was deliberately broken. And head 9 was found buried under a thick layer of charcoal, hinting at a possible burning or ritualistic destruction. The head that appears to have suffered the most damage is head 13, also known as the head of the feathered serpent. This head was found at the site of Tres Zapotes, one of the most important cities in the Olmec heartland. Strangely, this head is dressed in the traditional clothing of a Maya noble, which is extremely rare during the pre-classic period. Why would an Olmec ruler have been depicted wearing Maya clothing? And why was this head broken into so many pieces? While head 13 is undoubtedly the most damaged, it's also the most impressive. Its headdress is decorated with feathers and resembles the headdress of the feathered serpent god, a deity commonly associated with the Toltec culture to the north. What's even more strange is that head 13 appears to be wearing a nose ornament that was typical of the Maya lowlands. Did the Olmec have contact with the Maya before 400 BCE? And if so, what was the nature of this contact? Was it peaceful or hostile? The presence of the feathered serpent in Olmec territory also suggests that the Olmec may have had contact with the ancient Mesoamerican cultures to the north. Unfortunately, this head and others like it have suffered greatly due to looters and treasure hunters. As a result, we have very little information about the people whose faces are so prominent. Many of the heads have been dated to the early pre-classic period, between 1500 BCE and 400 BCE. However, new research suggests that they may have actually been created several hundred years later, during the late pre-classic period. This new dating would push back the timeline for Olmec civilization by several centuries. If true, this could have huge implications for understanding the origins of Mesoamerican culture. Another popular theory is that the Olmec heads were created as a form of propaganda to promote the authority of the ruler. Each head would serve as a reminder to the populace of who was in charge and what they looked like. This theory is supported by the fact that many of the heads appear to be intentionally damaged, suggesting that they were deliberately defaced to signify a change in power. If true, this would make them some of the earliest examples of anti-monarchist activity in the Americas. Of course, there are many other theories about the Olmec heads, and scholars continue to debate their meaning and purpose. However, one thing is certain: the creation of these heads represents a level of skill and sophistication that is truly remarkable. To create a 70-ton sculpture is no easy feat, and to do so in the pre-classic period is truly astounding. The fact that they were able to carve such detailed and expressive faces on the heads is even more impressive. The Olmec heads are a mystery that has captivated the imaginations of scholars and adventurers alike for centuries. They are a tangible link to a time before writing, a window into a world that existed before the rise of empires. While we may never know exactly what they were made for, we can appreciate them as a remarkable achievement of the human spirit. They are a testament to the creativity and ingenuity of the people who made them, and they remind us of the rich cultural heritage of Mexico. In recent years, there has been a renewed interest in the Olmec heads, thanks in part to the work of independent scholars and citizen scientists. New technologies such as laser scanning and photogrammetry have allowed researchers to create detailed 3D models of the heads, which can then be analyzed in greater detail. These new tools have revealed even more about the craftsmanship and artistry of these ancient sculptures. For example, researchers have been able to identify subtle changes in the texture of the stone, which can indicate where the sculptor added additional tools or techniques to achieve the desired effect. By understanding these changes, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the skill and patience required to create these masterpieces. Despite the progress that has been made, there is still much that we don't know about the Olmec heads. Many of them remain shrouded in mystery, and there is still much debate about their origins and purpose. However, as technology continues to improve, we can hope that we will learn more about these enigmatic sculptures and the people who made them. The Olmec heads are a source of national pride for Mexico and a reminder of the country's rich cultural heritage. These ancient sculptures are some of the most iconic symbols of pre-Columbian America, and they continue to fascinate people from all over the world. If you ever have the opportunity to visit Mexico, I highly recommend seeing the Olmec heads in person. It is an experience that I will never forget. The discovery of the Olmec heads in Mexico has revolutionized our understanding of pre-Columbian America. These mysterious stone heads are some of the oldest examples of monumental sculpture in the Western Hemisphere, and they offer a unique window into the cultures that flourished in Mexico before the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors. The discovery of the Olmec heads has also raised more questions than it has answered. Who were the Olmec people and what was their culture like? What was the purpose of the colossal heads and what happened to the civilizations that created them? While we may never have all the answers, the search for them continues to captivate the imaginations of archaeologists, historians, and adventurers alike. The Olmec heads are a reminder of the rich cultural heritage of Mexico and a testament to the enduring power of human curiosity. Thank you for watching my video. More than 2,000 years ago, the Greek philosopher Plato wrote of a mighty island civilization that sank beneath the waves. The tale he told was one of hubris, a story of how an advanced culture was taken down by its own greed and corruption. He said that it happened in the Atlantic Ocean, somewhere beyond the Strait of Gibraltar, but didn't offer any more clues as to its location. It was gone, he claimed, during his contemporary's lifetime. And since then, the quest to find it has consumed people's imaginations. What if Plato wasn't making things up? What if he witnessed the destruction of a real place or perhaps even saw its ruins on the seabed? Could Atlantis have been a real city lost to a natural disaster, swallowed by the sea thousands of years ago? Hello, and welcome to this channel. Today, we are going to meet a marine archaeologist who thinks she might have just found the lost city of Atlantis. And while she says there's still a lot more work to do before they can say for sure, her discovery is pretty exciting nonetheless. So let's dive right in. Plato's description of Atlantis came in two of his works, Timaeus and Critias, which were written around 360 B.C. According to those writings, Atlantis was an island nation ringed by powerful armies, boasting palaces and temples made of gold and precious stones. It was ruled over by a king named Atlas, the very first man to emerge from the ocean and hold dominion over the land. He shared power with 9 other kings, all descendants of Poseidon, who together formed a council that governed the entire island. It was a great place, Plato said, home to wise philosophers, inventors, and some of the bravest warriors on earth. But Atlantis wasn't meant to last. According to Plato, the Atlanteans were visited by outsiders who had come from another rich and powerful kingdom across the sea. They started trading with the locals, exchanging manufactured goods for food, wine, and metal. But the visitors soon became a bad influence. They corrupted the youth, turning them away from the wisdom of their philosophers. Enraged by what he saw, King Atlas gathered his forces and drove the newcomers out of his realm, killing many of them in the process. This angered the god Poseidon, who punished the king and his nation. In the end, the entire island sank beneath the waves. Only 1/3 of its territory remained above the water, forming a chain of islands. Plato's writings spread quickly throughout Europe, capturing the imagination of people like Emperor Hadrian and King Alfonso X of Spain. In the Middle Ages, however, they fell out of favor until German philosopher and mystic Jacob Boehme brought them back into fashion in the 18th century. By that time, stories of Atlantis were circulating about places like Iceland and the island of Malta. But modern interest in finding the lost city began with Napoleon's younger brother, Joseph Bonaparte, who purchased the island of Antivilla in 1811 and proclaimed it to be Atlantis. That reign lasted only 4 years, however, and soon everyone forgot about it. Still, scientists continued searching. In 1882, American writer Ignatius Donnelly published Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, in which he argued that the lost city was not an island at all, but a vast region that encompassed much of Western Europe, North Africa, and even the eastern United States. Other explorers focused on the Mediterranean Sea, where Plato said the city sank. Some claimed to have discovered it in Greece, others off the coast of Italy. Many believed it to lie hidden somewhere near the Egyptian coast, where it would have been easy to get lost among the hundreds of islands in the Aegean. One of the most compelling candidates is Santorini, now known as Thera. About 3,600 years ago, a massive volcanic eruption caused the island to collapse and sink below the waves. Evidence of the cataclysmic event can still be seen today in the pumice-covered villages and abandoned Bronze Age settlements. But despite the similarities, archaeologists have never uncovered evidence of a great flood on the island. There are no traces of buildings or artifacts that date back farther than 1400 BC, nor have they ever found anything that suggests the island once formed part of a larger territory. Then there's Plato's description of the people who came from another rich and powerful kingdom. Some researchers believe he may have been referring to the Minoans, a Bronze Age civilization that flourished on the island of Crete. Around the same time that Plato was writing, Europeans rediscovered the Minoan civilization after its accidental uncovering in the palace of Knossos. Some scholars suggested that the Minoans were the very people Plato described. However, unlike Atlantis, the Minoan civilization didn't disappear overnight. Instead, it slowly declined over several centuries. Plus, although the Minoans did trade with Egypt, there's no evidence that they ever set foot on Atlantis. And then there are the Egyptian records of a great flood. These tell the story of how the Nile River overflowed its banks, inundating the whole country. Some people believe that Plato may have gotten his story confused, taking a regional flood and blowing it way out of proportion. Others argue that it's simply a coincidence. After all, floods and earthquakes happen all the time. A single disaster could have easily inspired Plato to write his story. But what if Atlantis really existed? What evidence might we look for to prove it? Well, according to Plato, it was built by Poseidon and his 9 sons, so it should have been monumental in scale. If Atlantis was a true place, it likely boasted large structures, including massive palaces and soaring temples made of precious metals. If we can find any man-made formations from the Atlantic's hypothetical past, we might be looking at real evidence of Atlantis. And that brings us to our intrepid marine archaeologist, who believes she may have just done that. Her name is Anastasia Christoffel, and she works at the University of Ghent in Belgium. She's been exploring the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean off the Portuguese coast for the past few years, searching for potential archaeological sites. In 2021, she and her team found something interesting. Hidden beneath centuries of sediment lay the crumbling remains of several structures. At first, the team couldn't tell if these were natural rock formations or something more. However, recent analysis of the site suggests otherwise. It's artificial. Someone built these structures long ago, perhaps even ancient Greeks. Christoffel believes that they date back to around 800 BC, exactly the time period when Plato said Atlantis was destroyed. And because they were made of limestone, a material that doesn't preserve well underwater, she thinks they were likely part of a grander structure, perhaps a temple or palace. But who built them, and what purpose did they serve? As it stands, nobody knows. It's too early to say whether the structures are linked to Atlantis. After all, there have been plenty of mysterious underwater discoveries over the years, but none of them have turned out to be the lost city. Plus, the Bible tells of great floods that ravaged the earth, taking with them the people and places of old. Perhaps the same thing happened here. A sudden deluge could have buried the entire city, taking everything with it. Or maybe this was simply a small settlement that was gradually reclaimed by the sea. Regardless, there's clearly something down there. Now the team needs to figure out what. To do that, they'll have to return to the site, this time with more equipment. They plan to take high-resolution pictures of the structures and create detailed maps of the surrounding area. With any luck, they'll uncover more artifacts and get a better sense of the timeline. Once they understand that, they'll have a much better idea of what they're dealing with. Maybe this really is the lost city of Atlantis, or maybe it's something else entirely. Either way, they're excited to keep digging through the mud, hoping to piece together the city's history. As for you, what do you think? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. We've got lots of fascinating archaeology videos coming your way. Thanks for watching. See you next time. The Copper Scroll, a Dead Sea Scroll listing hidden treasures, but none have ever been found. It's not often that archaeological finds make headlines, but when they do, it's usually about something boring, like a jar made 2,000 years ago that was discovered in an old wall. But every once in a while there's a discovery that really gets people talking. And this is one of those times. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about the Copper Scroll, a Dead Sea Scroll that may lead us to some undiscovered treasure. There are lots of famous artifacts out there, things like the Rosetta Stone or King Tut's mask, things that people pass by all the time without realizing that they're looking at something truly special. But this scroll is special for a different reason, because unlike most ancient artifacts, it holds clues to something that may still exist today: buried treasure. But what exactly does it say? Is the treasure real? And if so, where is it now? Keep watching to find out. The Copper Scroll, also called 3Q15 or just 15, is a Dead Sea Scroll written sometime before 70 CE. This means it would have been created between the beginning of the 1st century BCE and the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE. The Copper Scroll was discovered in 1952, part of the treasures found in Cave 3 of the Naqada el-Higarian Caves. In total, archaeologists found over 200 manuscripts, including copies of the Book of Isaiah, the oldest copy of the Psalms, and the Community Rule, a document detailing the rules of life for the community living near Qumran. All these scrolls were written on papyrus, which is pretty normal, but then something caught the team's attention. They found a small copper sheet. On the copper sheet was an inscription written backwards. The contents were indecipherable, so the team took the Copper Scroll home with them and showed it to a specialist. This person was able to flip the text the right way around. When he did, it became clear that the copper scroll wasn't a normal scroll. It detailed hidden treasure. In total, the copper scroll has 64 lines of text, and according to experts, these texts contain the locations to 64 different hiding places. These hiding places contained gold, silver, copper, linen, and even garments. There were even instructions on how to open some of the containers. One example is the following. This one reads, "At the mouth of the cave in the upper right-hand corner of the wall, you shall dig in the place where the sandal is under the stone." Another says, "At the mouth of the cave on the lower left-hand corner of the wall, you shall dig beneath the loose stone." It sounds simple enough, but nobody has ever found any of these treasures. The copper scroll has led to many expeditions looking for buried treasure, but unfortunately, no fortune has ever been uncovered. Some scholars suggest that the copper scroll could be a hoax, that it was created relatively recently, and that the treasure isn't real. Others say that the copper scroll is an authentic historical document that tells the story of a lost treasure. So, who's right? If the copper scroll is a fake, who made it and why? And if it's real, why haven't we found any of the treasure yet? To understand these questions, we need to look at a few details of the scroll itself. First of all, we have to consider the fact that the copper scroll is different from other Dead Sea Scrolls. It wasn't created on papyrus, but on a thin sheet of copper. It's also much thinner than most of the other scrolls and was created using a completely different ink. The difference is so great, in fact, that some experts think that it may have been created by someone outside the group that created the others. Other experts disagree, claiming that the scroll was simply created differently on purpose. Either way, though, it's clear that whoever wrote the copper scroll did so with a specific purpose in mind, and that purpose was to hide treasure. As mentioned earlier, the copper scroll contains instructions for accessing 64 different hiding places. Each hiding place supposedly contains valuable items such as gold, silver, garments, and more. Most of the hiding places are described in great detail, telling you exactly where to dig and sometimes even giving you instructions on how to open the container holding the treasure. For example, one reads, "At the mouth of the cave in the upper right-hand corner of the wall, you shall dig in the place where the sandal is under the stone." Another says, "At the mouth of the cave on the lower left-hand corner of the wall, you shall dig beneath the loose stone." On its face, this doesn't seem to make any sense. What sandal? What loose stone? Experts believe that these instructions describe a specific location, a place where an actual sandal was placed under a stone. Unfortunately, nobody knows where this place is or what the sandal looks like, and that's why nobody has found any of the treasure yet. Some scholars point to the fact that the copper scroll only contains instructions for finding treasure and nothing else. For them, this makes it clear that the scroll was created for only one purpose: to hide treasure. Others argue that the copper scroll was created as a kind of diary, a way to keep track of the community's goods. For these people, the instructions weren't meant to be taken literally, but rather serve as a type of code that only certain people could understand. While this theory seems far-fetched, it's possible that both of these theories are correct. Maybe the copper scroll was used for both purposes, to hide treasure and to keep track of community goods. One thing's for sure, though. Whoever wrote the copper scroll wanted to hide their treasure very well. The hiding places aren't just randomly placed around the area. According to expert analysis, each letter of the Hebrew alphabet appears once in each of the 24 verses. Scholars believe that this may have been done to hide the treasure, to prevent anyone from finding it by accident. Instead, only someone who knew the secret meaning of the scroll could have any hope of finding the treasure. Whoever created the scroll carefully thought about where the treasure would be hidden and what clues they would leave behind. And so far, they've won. After almost 80 years, nobody has found any of the treasure listed on the copper scroll. But here's the thing, maybe they already did find the treasure. As tempting as it is to believe that somewhere out there there's a lost hoard of treasure just waiting to be found, the truth might be a lot less exciting. The treasure may have already been discovered, but nobody realized it. Over the years, several people have claimed to have found treasure based on the clues in the copper scroll. Sadly, none of these claims have panned out. In fact, nobody has ever found anything while using the scroll as a guide. That being said, that doesn't mean that the treasure isn't out there. It's possible that someday someone will come along and finally find one of the lost treasures. When that day comes, the world will definitely hear about it. So, what should we make of the copper scroll? Should we believe that it's real and that the treasure still exists, or is it a fake created for another purpose? It's hard to say for sure. Maybe we'll never know. What do you think the copper scroll means? Do you think the treasure is still out there somewhere, or has it already been found? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Have you ever walked through a forest and suddenly felt like something was watching you? Or maybe you've been driving down a long road and gotten the eerie feeling that you're being followed. Today, we are going to explore a place where thousands of stones stand in a field like silent sentinels keeping secrets of the past. Welcome to this channel. And today, let's explore the Carnac stones. In Brittany, France, there is a collection of more than 3,000 standing stones known as the Carnac stones. These stones have been around since before Stonehenge, and yet archaeologists still don't know exactly what they were used for. This has led to many theories, some more outlandish than others, but none have been proven. So, what exactly are the Carnac stones, and why should you care? Well, if you like mysteries, ancient history, or just want to learn about a really interesting place, then keep watching. We'll get to the bottom of this mystery together. The Carnac stones are located in the region of Brittany in France. The closest major city is Lorient, which is about 15 kilometers away. The stones are spread out over an area of about 12 square kilometers, and there are three main groups of stones: Kermario, Kerleskin, and Chem Obelis. The largest group is Kermario, which has nearly 3,000 stones. The stones are made of granite and vary in height from 1 to 4 meters. The tallest stone is known as the Menek and is 6.5 meters high. It's unclear how the stones were transported to their current location, as there are no nearby granite deposits. The stones are thought to be older than Stonehenge, dating back to around 4500 BC. This makes them around 6,500 years old. The Carnac stones are not the only megalithic site in Brittany. There are over 200 other sites with similar stones scattered throughout the region. However, the Carnac stones are by far the most impressive. So why are they so special? Well, it's not just the sheer number of stones that makes them so remarkable, but also the fact that they are so well preserved. Many of the other megalithic sites in Brittany have been destroyed or heavily eroded over the centuries. But the Carnac stones are still standing strong after all this time. It's unclear how the Carnac stones were built, but it's believed that they were erected during the Neolithic period. This was a time when humans began to farm and live in settled communities. The Neolithic people were also skilled builders, and the Carnac stones are a testament to their craftsmanship. It's believed that the stones were transported from a quarry using wooden rollers and then lifted into place using a combination of brute strength and clever engineering. So now we know how they were probably built, but why were they built? That is where things get really interesting, because archaeologists have been unable to come up with a definitive answer. There are many theories, but sadly none have been proven. One theory is that the stones were used for religious ceremonies. This is supported by the fact that many of the stones are aligned with important celestial bodies, such as the solstices and equinoxes. It's possible that the Neolithic people used the stones as a way to track the seasons or to worship the sun and the moon. Another theory is that the stones were part of a burial ground. This is based on the fact that human remains have been found near many of the stones. It's possible that the Neolithic people believed that the stones had special powers and that they could protect the dead on their journey to the afterlife. And then there's the most outlandish theory, which is that the stones were left behind by aliens. This may sound crazy, but hear me out. There are many unexplained phenomena that have been observed at the Karnak stones. For example, there have been reports of strange lights and sounds being heard in the area. Some people have even claimed to see UFOs in the sky while visiting the stones. While these claims cannot be substantiated, they are interesting nonetheless. It's possible that there are undiscovered natural phenomena occurring in the area that we simply don't understand yet. There are a lot of mysteries surrounding the Karnak stones, and we may never know for sure what they were used for. What do you think they were used for? Let us know in the comments below. Now, if you're interested in visiting the Karnak stones for yourself, here's what you need to know. The stones are located in a rural area, and the best way to get there is by car. The nearest train station is in Lorient, and from there it's about a 15-minute drive. If you're planning on exploring all 3 sites, then you'll need at least half a day. Each site is quite large, and there is a lot of walking involved, so make sure to wear comfortable shoes. It's also a good idea to bring a camera, as the scenery is absolutely breathtaking. When you first arrive at the Karnak stones, you may be struck by the sheer number of stones. It can be difficult to wrap your mind around the fact that each one was placed there by hand thousands of years ago. As you start to walk among the stones, you'll begin to feel a sense of awe and wonder. You may also feel a sense of connection to the people who came before us and who built these amazing structures. It's truly humbling to think that these stones have stood the test of time, and that they're still here for us to marvel at today. If you're lucky enough to visit on a clear day, be sure to take advantage of the opportunity to take some photos. The light shining through the stones creates a beautiful effect that is truly magical. Just be sure to respect the site and don't climb on the stones or try to move them. They're fragile, and we want to preserve them for future generations to enjoy. Visiting the Karnak stones is an experience that will stay with you for a lifetime. It's a place where you can connect with the past and feel the energy of the earth itself. So, if you're ever in the area, be sure to add it to your list of must-see destinations. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. We hope that you've learned something new and that you're inspired to explore the world around you. If you did enjoy the video, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. We've got lots more videos coming up, and we don't want you to miss out. As we end this video, we want to leave you with one last thought. The Karnak stones are a reminder that there are still many mysteries in our world that we may never fully understand. But that's what makes them so fascinating. There's always more to discover and explore. So keep your mind open and your curiosity strong, and you never know what you might find. Who knows? Maybe you'll stumble upon something that helps us unlock the secrets of the Karnak stones once and for all. Until then, we'll continue to explore the world and bring you the most amazing discoveries. So be sure to join us on our next adventure. Thank you once again for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed learning about the Karnak stones, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.